their problem. It doesn't affect us. So there's a stigma, I call it the international stigma attached to that, so much that even the allocation of resources is really not genuine. Because, after all, it is not really our problem. They say we should give them some money, just give them a little bit. And they'll keep quiet. That's my other school of thought. And maybe both are true. So for me, there is need for a major paradigm shift in terms of how the world and even our countries are dealing with this pandemic. It's really about understanding us as a people, that we have sex, we don't have sex, we have different ways of having sex, it's not, we have different perceptions, and so on and so forth. And really understanding and pouring in the necessary resources to create that understanding, but also inviting us on board to really be part of the problem solving. When I go to the district, I'm like, but this is a problem here. I go to the district commissioner or to the people, to the women on the ground. Why don't we do it like this? They may say, hey, you know what the district commissioner is saying? At headquarters, they say the strategy is at headquarters. So they brought it with this money. So we can't use this money in this way because the government says we must do it in another way. You understand? So they all know their solutions, but they'll be like, hey, let's not even go there. We can't use this money for this purpose. This money can only be used the way the National AIDS Commission has said, because they've signed an agreement with the Global Fund. And if they use it a different way, we are finished. But I'm like, it's not working. We'll die. They should know by now that it's not working. So you find that people are even afraid. I've never seen this. People are even afraid to engage with their own realities because there are certain solutions which have been imposed upon them. And you'd ask me, why would they be afraid? Why can't they just do it? We're talking about powerlessness, remember? I talked about powerlessness, voicelessness, poverty. Backs you up into a corner. And those people with power come up and do whatever they want and continue to mess up until God knows when. I believe we have a big challenge. Now, that is not to say certain things are just sitting. People are not doing the best they can. I think there are corners and spaces where people are doing the best they can, but it still remains difficult. Sarah has said, for example, that the organization that I serve, we came up with a law on the prevention of domestic violence in response to the HIV pandemic, because domestic violence is one area, it's a fertile area for HIV transmission. And we decided, literally single-handed, literally in our office to say, you know what, we're going to move this country. We're going to come up with a law of which there is none. And the legal mandate to come up with a law in the country is through the Malawi Law Commission. It is not through any organization of the civil society. But we decided enough is enough. So we started a process in 2000 where we got support from the Norwegians who gave us money to consult on what a law on domestic violence would look like. If you just Google prevention of domestic violence in Malawi, or women and law, or even my name, you see the response. We almost got killed. It was like, people, let us pray for these women. They are going to hell. How can they even come up with a law on domestic violence? These feminists, what. But we just carried on. We realized that there was a problem. We consulted, we formulated the principles. We made it a very sexy thing for the government to have, because we said under international legal framework, under the Convention of the United Nations of all forms of discrimination, which is part and parcel of the laws of Malawi, you are under an obligation to come up with this law. Unless you are saying you're no longer a member state, or you no longer want to uphold the rights of women, so you not come up with this. It took a while. I'm talking about 6 years. It's not a short term. But we badgered on, we talked. There was a change of government, we badgered on, we talked. Until one day, a reporter reported of a woman whose hands had been chopped off by her husband because of jealousy. Soon after that, the following week, there was a newspaper report of, and these are journalists whom we had trained to report so that maybe to create a more consciousness. And there was a newspaper article of a woman who had been killed by her husband because she was refusing to have sex, unprotected sex with him. And the reason was why she was refusing, apart from the fact that she has a right to refuse. I mean, that's not the case. But the case was even exacerbated by the fact that she was HIV positive. She had an STI, sexually transmitted infection, and she was 3 months pregnant. And he had 2 other wives. And when she said, I'm not going to have sex with you, he killed her. This embarrassed my government. And the president said, so what should we do? And I advised the president to say, you know what? The Prevention of Domestic Violence law. This was like in January. By April, the law had been passed. Because it just became a source of embarrassment. But also, it validated us. Because whatever we had been talking about, they used to say we've taken it from our dreams and we're just talking feminists from, you've taken ideas from abroad and you're bringing them here, this and that. Every time we say, but the women, the clients we have, they all say, you're just dreaming about them. But because the media, we had done a lot of training on the media, and the media started to pick up these cases, the government became very embarrassed, particularly in the context of a 14% prevalence rate of HIV/AIDS. So in April 2006, we managed to get the law passed. Very difficult. And the government said, Seodi, there's your law. Go with it. You're like, we need resources to implement this law. The government, up to this day, they're like, we'll give you, we'll give you, we'll give you. The next budget, the next budget. The 2 budgets have passed since the passing of the law. There has not been any allocation of resources to implement this law. We need to train magistrates. We need to train the police. We need to make the whole public understand the content of this law and how they can protect themselves using this law. The government said, but so I thought you said you wanted the law. Now you're being very difficult. That's what they say. You're being very difficult. You've got the law, shut up. But for me, whilst we're trying to get the resources that we need from our government, that's from other people, what we are saying is that it's at least how can I put it? It just shows that even with very difficult spaces, where there are no, in fact, even when there are no spaces, you can create space to try and make change in your own country for the betterment of other women. At this particular point, for example, there's a constitutional review going on, constitutional review going on. And one of the strategies that we believe to change the law, to change the position of women so that they're less vulnerable, is to protect their property rights in marriage. And currently, the Constitution does not protect women in that regard. We have submitted maybe 3 documents to the Constitutional Review Commission to try and sensitize them on this particular provision. Every time they pretend, we've lost that document. What did you submitted it? We've lost it. So we had a Constitutional Review conference, and they deliberately did not invite some of us. We badgered in, we managed to get in. They gave us a back seat, I managed to get a front seat. They did not put women's rights on their agenda. We badgered. I mean, it was unbelievable. If you see the video of the conference, there are people, we are moving like this, talking. Give us space, give us space. And they gave us the space to speak on this. We managed to get the recommendations on change of property rights for women in the final report, which we hope will be passed. Small steps. Difficult but small, because you make enemies. But it's like that. So for me, this is the challenge I want to pose to all of you about your responsibility, in my opinion, as global citizens. To what extent are you willing to be in solidarity with us women from Southern Africa, to change this whole direction that the HIV response has taken. To influence your government, to give us more money, to influence your government, to look at it from a rights-based perspective, rather than from an individual-based perspective. To ensure that poverty is really history, because poverty is a fertile ground for HIV transmission. To remove this international stigma that I'm talking about. To engage more with us, not from afar and just say Africa is there, but to really get into Africa and work with us and understand us. It's the kind of solidarity that we need from you. Life is not just about you as a person. It's about engaging as global citizens, particularly when you have an epidemic of this proportion as we do. Because I know life carries on here, but it is not the same where I come from. It is not the same. Every day I worry about a relative. Is she well? Is she going to make it? She dies, we go to a funeral. I've been here, how many weeks have I been here? Maybe 6 now. Already I've lost 2 relatives. They were on ARVs, but don't forget, it's one line. And once you create resistance, that's it. It's one line. It's not like here where you get this line, it's not working, you go into the next line. No. It's one line. And if you get resistance, you come up with a tumor, because the side effects are quite serious. Eh? You come with a tumor, you get sicker, that's it. So I've only been here 6 weeks. Already I've lost 2 relatives. For me, my HIV is my reality. It is not about the othering of others. It's about my reality